everybody. Welcome back to Rant Line Radio, episode 620, coming to you on Monday, September 22nd. We're going to look back at USC's 45-31 win over the Michigan State Spartans on Saturday night. A late one at the Coliseum. The Trojans prevail. We're going to look back at that, give you our thoughts, open up some over-under, the mailbag, and so much more. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Rant of Troy. Email us, rantoftroyfans.com, and our phone number, 818-643-7227. Second What's Bruin Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, journalist, my co-host here in the Rant Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia Dartola.
Hello, everybody. And our other co-hosts are a border collie and a mutt deciding that right now is the perfect time to start roughhousing. So, yeah. Literally right next to my chair.
Yeah, fun times. But, you know, Alicia, in our intro, of course, we say, suck it, What's Bruin Show. Mm-hmm. Because of our friends over at the What's Bruin Show, because they say "suck it, Rant of Troy." It's a callback to them, yes. Right? But we might have to stop doing that because, Alicia, this week their podcast is on the line. They're on death row.
Ooh, it's
according to our friends over the What's Bruin Show.
Sources say
the What's Bruin Show will cease to exist if they go 0-4, which means if they lose to Northwestern. Jake is adamant that the What's Bruin Show will no longer exist if they start 0-4. Like, he made this as the joke weeks ago. And it might come home to roost. So, prayers over to the What's Bruin Show.
The Bruins are going through it.
Yeah.
I feel for them. Even though this is weirdly entertaining, but in the worst kind of way.
Sure.
So yeah, I hope that UCLA beats Northwestern so that the What's Bruin Show survives. But also because if they don't beat Northwestern, I don't see where their next win comes from.
0-12 starts to really come into focus. Yeah. Lisa, would you ever gamble the fate of this podcast away?
No.
Would you ever go all in on anything?
I would not. No.
I've been tempted to.
I've been tempted to say, screw it, let's stop doing the podcast, but never
yes, but no, like
never. I'm not gonna be the Manchester United fan that's not that's not cutting his hair until United wins
5 games in a row. Yeah.
If I did, I don't know what I would do that for, but
hey, you're not gonna cut your hair until USC wins 5 in a row.
We're not too far from that.
I mean, hey, no, technically they already have. They're on a 5-game winning streak.
Yeah, it's a 5-game winning streak.
Yeah, okay, so
hey, I've been wanting to cut my hair for months now, so yeah.
you're already there.
I'm already there.
Yeah, during the Michigan State game, I didn't think about going as, nuclear as like the podcast will no longer exist if USC loses this game. But I did think of because I during the watch along, I said that I understand why, fans in the chat were worried about what was going on with the Trojans in that game. But I never felt like the game was truly in peril, even if it was a 1-score game in the third quarter. But there was a part of me that was like, if SC loses this game, I'll eat a full gallon of mustard on the pot, Well,
Tim in LA said, didn't the last podcast-related gamble end up in Michael doing a shot of mustard?
Well, yes. So yeah, that was...
I learned from my pickle gamble, I'm never doing that again.
You know what's weird? I don't even remember what the mustard gamble was.
What was the mustard gamble?
I don't even remember. I don't remember what your pickle one was.
Mine was about Porter Gustin playing. I said I would eat a pickle if Porter Gustin played against whoever USC was playing that week. Yeah. And he played. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to the news, shall we? Alicia, if you were going to say that you were not going to blank until SC was ranked, you would have stopped doing that, whatever it was, a week ago. and you'd still be in that situation because SC is still ranked. And moving on up, SC is number 21 in the AP poll, number 22 now in the coaches poll. Of course, around here, we care more about the AP than the coaches poll. In the AP poll, SC's next three opponents are ranked number 23, that's Illinois, number 19, that's Michigan, and number 22, that is Notre Dame. The next three opponents, all right around in that area. Indiana, who's not on USC's schedule, shot up to number 11 after jiggle-bagging Illinois. Of course, USC's opponent this week, and Oregon remains in the top 5. But Alicia, where do you stand on SCB number 21?
Yeah, it feels right. A 4-0 team in a power conference should be ranked, especially one like USC that has the advanced stats behind them.
Yeah.
But also the 4-0 that USC is not a proven 4-0 yet. USC hasn't really been tested. So I wouldn't really argue for USC to be much higher than where they are because they've played teams that they ought to beat. They ought to have a 4-0 record, and they do. And now comes the stretch where USC gets to prove if they are indeed a top 15, top 10 level team, and they're going to get that chance very soon.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to see that in the next 3 games. The next 3 games, all against ranked teams. When we get to the calls later, I think it's we got a call from Scott in Memphis, which we're going to actually play Wednesday because it's more about Illinois. But in that call, Scott says, how much he loves the schedule sort of ramping up every week. I was thinking about it. Not only did it ramp up through the first 4 weeks, I think you can make this serious case, and I don't even think this is like you even have to make a strong argument about this. It's the first 7 games, right?
Well, yeah.
Because I think Illinois, tougher opponent than Michigan State, and in a lot of ways, I think Michigan will be tougher than Illinois. Mm-hmm. I think the home road split of there, I think that makes it difficult. Like the Illinois game might be more difficult than the Michigan game just because of the home road stuff. But in terms of opponent, it's definitely a step up. And I think Notre Dame is a better team than Michigan also.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that definitely... the ramp up is clearly there. The only hiccup is, certainly in terms of the level of team that USC will face, the only hiccups are like the home road split of it.
Yeah.
But even that, like the Illinois losing to Indiana sort of does fit this more nicely back into the narrative.
Yeah.
It's USC, again, the schedule does benefit USC in that they get to pass each test, each hurdle, along the way. And, unfortunately, when you get up towards the higher levels, the bosses get harder. And you have to sort of play better in order to beat those bosses.
Yeah, 100%. You really got to pick your spots with how SC is going to continue to move on up. And, of course, you can join me and making your picks over at Underdog Fantasy. It's great. It's one of my favorite things in life is playing over at Underdog Fantasy, Daily Fantasy. It's all about using your skill, your ball knowledge, to pick whether a player will go higher or lower than their stat projections, mix and match different players, different teams, different sports. At least tonight, Monday Night Football, I am taking advantage of a special pick with Lamar Jackson. I'm going higher than 0 rush yards, 0 pass plus rush yards. Special promotion from Underdog Fantasy. You can join in as well if you go to Underdog Fantasy and download the app. So I'm going higher than 0 pass plus rush yards and higher, 73.5 receiving yards for Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's where we stand there. Of course, you can join me and download the app today with promo code Rant of Troy to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code Rant of Troy. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks, win money. You must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concern with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7-HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Alicia, let's get into talking about USC and Michigan State. It's been a couple days. You've had time to sort of process the goings-ons, whatever you would say.
The goings-on.
Sure. 45-31. Where do you stand on it as of now?
I think I stand in exactly the place that I was, and I was sort of rewatching bits of it this morning, and it essentially was where I was with the carcast, and I was re-listening to the carcast because of some feedback that we'd gotten, and sort of laughing because I honestly went to sleep that night thinking I had been very negative, and on re-listening to the carcast, I think I was much more positive and praising than even I remembered, in part because the offense was truly good, like truly great. I think I come away again from this game feeling very confident in Jaden Mayava, feeling very confident in USC's playmakers across the board. And even though I still have reservations about USC's offensive line, sorry, I have a sneeze coming up. Even though I have reservations about USC's offensive line, I think that they are doing a pretty good job thus far, and certainly can perform at a level that could get USC much closer to 9 wins than I anticipated. So all of that is great news, and I'm very happy about that. And rewatching the game just reinforced that, because you just see the composure from Mayava, the run lanes, the way that Eli Sanders and Wayman Jordan hit those lanes. It's just, and obviously the way Mekhi Lemon operates, it's just really, really encouraging. There's very little negative to say about this offense thus far. Unfortunately, my questions about the defense continue to be raised. This game didn't really help that. In fact, it sort of strengthened my opinions across the board on the defense, which is to say USC's front seven, USC's pass rush is far and away the strength of this team, which is funny because it was a weakness last year. Not a weakness so much, but like productivity-wise, the pass rush didn't make a lot of sense, and it was completely lacking in production. And it was a big problem for USC's defense. This year, that's what this pass rush is doing. They are getting their production. They are having their impact on the game, and it is an overwhelming impact at times. It is extremely good to see players like Anthony Lucas and Cam Crawford, who, by the way, in case you didn't know, Cameron Fountain has changed his name to Cam Crawford. So we are we're trying to get used to the Crawford. But those guys really coming along. Braylon Shelby being a force as well. It's just really encouraging from that perspective. The problem is, and then of course Eric Gentry being the giraffe and amazing. The problem is that like the questions that I had coming into the season about linebacker, aside from Eric Gentry, have not been answered positively. And I didn't realize I needed to have questions about USC secondary, specifically the corners. But apparently I did, and apparently we do. And this game didn't really help that perception. I was looking through some of the PFF numbers, and every single player in USC's secondary that played more than 10 snaps was sub 62.4 in the PFF rankings, in the PFF ratings. 62.4 was Bishop Fitzgerald his rating, and he led the team there. So Bishop Fitzgerald is far and away USC's best member of the secondary. The safeties are far and away the most reliable members of USC secondary, and the corners week in and week out continue to just be subpar. When, I think that like the part of the problem here is that DeCarlos Nicholson being your best corner, no shade on DeCarlos Nicholson, but like that's a step down from what USC's like best corner over the last 3 or 4 years. And that's a problem. And we see that in this game. The corners that USC brought in to help with this unit are just not getting the job done. In part, Chasen Johnson injured. Nothing we can do about that, but not like he was playing super well anyways. DJ Harvey in this game was USC's worst rated player. He had a 42.3 per PFF. On the season, of corners in the Big Ten who have had at least 20% of coverage snaps for a team, DJ Harvey is the third worst in the Big Ten. It's just been bad from DJ Harvey, and in this game, he was the worst. Desmond Stevens was second worst with 47.8. DeCarlos Nicholson was 50.3. Keyshawn Silver 54.3 on quite a few on pretty limited snaps, and then Christian Pierce with a 56.8. So like, I'm not so worried about Christian Pierce because I think he's at this stage proven to be pretty adequate as far as safety goes. But like, the corner situation is a problem. And I think that denying that that's a problem at this stage is just folly. USC has to get this sorted out because these offenses that they've played so far are not the offenses that should have been doing the damage to USC. That is a huge worry, a huge concern. And the main reason why this game wasn't just a very simple blowout, just a very simple, have your 8 p.m. game, win easy, and then look on to Illinois. It was basically the corners that caused that to be a problem. And unfortunately, you're only as strong as your weakest links. So the weakest links in this game, very concerning.
Yeah, you look at you look at what Michigan State was able to do in terms of those big plays. 150 yards came on those 3 big pass plays that they had. They had in those 3 big pass plays, they had 2 long touchdowns, 42 yards, 75 yards, literally 2/3 of their passing yards came on those 3 plays. 45% of all of their yards came on those 3 plays. Michigan State averaged 3.6 yards per play on the 51 plays that were not the 3 big pass gains. So I think that this to me is the most frustrating part about this defensive performance is that they were really good. The defense was really good. Like, even the secondary was good, except the 3 plays. And the 3 plays you can't eliminate. And you look back 2 years ago, this was a conversation that we had after the San Jose State game, right? And the Nevada game. I think the Nevada game specifically, there were 3 plays that like was something like more than 2/3 of their entire offense or something like that. Like, it was crazy what 3 plays that they had. And like 2 of them being touchdowns, like what it did for their yardage, right? Like, it's a very similar situation. And you put it all together and it's frustrating because like you see how good the defense can be.
Yeah, but isn't this something that we've gone through before?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like that's the issue. Is it's like I was much more willing to be the optimist and say, well, the good news is you just got to clean up a couple plays and suddenly you have a really good defense.
Yeah.
Like, we've been through this too many years for me to even speak those words.
Yes. And where I will give Danton Lynn some grace here is, yes, this happened in the Michigan game last year, but that was in terms of the run. It wasn't in terms of the pass. The issues that we're seeing with SC defensively, we haven't seen with Danton Lynn necessarily. Small sample size, right? Like, the issues that they're having this year are not the same issues that they had last year. And so, like, I think that we can give him some grace in order to like work through it, especially when there's a bunch of injuries in the secondary. Prophet Brown not there, Chasen Johnson done for the season, Alex Graham not playing, and you've moved around Kamari Ramsey from safety to nickel, and he's probably much better at safety. At least he performed much better at safety last year. So like, I think that there are some ways for this to get better. It's just a matter of actually taking the step forward. Last year, they struggled with the big plays against Michigan. I think they did much better to limit the big long runs after that. But that was a completely different problem also. Like, they were not winning the line of scrimmage against Michigan, which is a completely sort of different situation. So, yeah, I think it's something to keep in mind at considering that this next game against Illinois, probably the best quarterback USC will face for the rest of the season, in Luke Altmaier. So you got to be able to deal with that, because you're going to face better offenses going forward. Michigan will be a very difficult test that is completely different than any of the teams that they faced also. So, a lot of things to sort of get there, and some of it feels familiar, but at the same time, like, I think there was a lot of faith put into D'Anton Lynn from us and everybody, I think, going into the season, and he's still got to work through some stuff, but it's early. It's early in the season. We'll see how that all goes to be. Alicia, I want to get to the little fun stats with Michael segment here that we've put together. I don't know that this is completely a fun stats with Michael segment, in the sense that, like, I put together like 3 pages of notes, and some of this just like went way off the rails. So like, I'm not going to go through all 3 pages of notes that I put together. I will start with this. Since 2000, I went back and looked at every starting USC quarterback through their first games of a season. How many times do you think a quarterback has not thrown an interception the first 4 games of a season in which they have started all 4 games?
So here's the problem: is like, I have this in front of me, so
this is true.
Asking me the question isn't really
that's
fair.
fair.
So I'll give the audience a moment to think about this. But I'm just gonna say it's probably been more rare than common.
Yes, and it's very rare. 2 other quarterbacks besides Jaden Mayava have done it. Cody Kessler in 2014, Caleb Williams in 2022, and Caleb Williams in 2023. Everybody else had at least a couple of picks in there. You look back at Sam Darnold in the first 4 games of 2017 and thrown 7. Like, it's wild. I think Matt Barkley had like 5 in the first 4 games of 2012. Like, it's very encouraging that Jaden Mayava has limited the interceptions, especially since that was the concern about his game. Most of the parts of his game that weren't tied to turnovers, I think he felt pretty decent about, pretty good about going into the season. But he's limited the turnovers, eliminated them through 4 games, which I think is huge for him. All right, some of the stats I wanted to just call out here are messed up from the Michigan State game. The stat broadcast, we mentioned this in the carcast, but like, the stat broadcast just ends abruptly after the 75-yard touchdown pass to make it 45-30 before the PAT for Michigan State with 2 minutes to go. The official stat book, game book, as they call it, that's in the national database that the media use, also stopped recording, but after the ensuing kickoff after the 75-yard touchdown. But they, in the game book, the 75-yard pass is noted as an incomplete pass. And then you go to like CFBstats.com, who I imagine is scraping data from these like official sources. They only note USC having allowed 1 40-plus yard pass all season. Well, they allowed 2 in the Michigan State game. So like, that kind of suggests that they didn't count the 75-yard touchdown to Amari Kelly with 2 minutes to go in the game. Because if you're scraping off the game book, then right there. It's not in there. So I don't know. It's very confusing. USC's official stat book does have a complete play-by-play summary and all the statistics for what it's worth, but not the other one. So that's weird. But Alicia, I wanted to go into the penalty drive, because there was a quote in the Lincoln Riley post-game press conference, which I want to get your thoughts on. Quote, "We had a couple of substitution errors tonight, which are inexplicable. That's coaching. We got to get a lot better at that." Quote, "At the end of the season, we go look up the least penalized teams in the country. Typically, it's a bunch of teams with shitty records. There's a balance. You have to play this game aggressively. I'm not going to put out a team there at USC that does not play this game aggressively. The flip side of that is you got to handle the self-inflicted ones, and that's where we got to do better. We're going to continue to emphasize that." Alicia, I thought that this was a good couple of paragraphs from Lincoln Riley, because I agree with everything he's put together here. I did do the lookup, by the way. The best way to sort of take out a lot of variables is to look at the Big Ten solely in Big Ten play, so it only has Big Ten refs. And if you look at that, then last year doesn't really bear out the mediocre teams at the top of the thing, because the top 5 teams in terms of least penalties per game last year in the Big Ten, in Big Ten play only, again, so only Big Ten refs, Iowa, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Rutgers. Those were all teams with winning records, right? And the Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State were 3 of the teams at the tip of the spear of the conference, right? If you look at the FBS at large, it really is random. You have 12-2 Army is number 3, 11-3 Iowa State is number 4. Everybody else on that list is pretty scattered all over the place. A bunch of teams that average 7 wins. So it doesn't completely bear out what Lincoln Riley is saying about aggressive penalties and whatnot. But I get the crux of what he is saying. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that he is maybe trying to bend this narrative a little bit.
Sure.
I don't think any coach wants penalties, or wants to yada yada penalties. But I will say that the best Pete Carroll teams all were the most penalized teams in the country half of the time.
Yes.
So penalties themselves aren't the issue, and I agree with Riley in that you can have a very penalized team and it can still be a very good team, and you can still function perfectly fine with that. And you can have a very unpenalized team and they can be a very bad team and, not function. And one of the things is I can live with a hands to the face penalty or a pass interference penalty or a holding penalty. What I can't live with is a 12 men on the field penalty, or these procedural penalties are the ones that really get your goat.
Yeah, 100%. I think hands to the face is the one that's frustrating because it just feels completely meaningless because it almost never affects the play.
Yeah.
But that's the one I have a lot of sympathy for, because you put your hands up and once it's there, you can't literally take it off. You're locked in a battle. You're engaged. It's very difficult there. All right, Alicia, I'm gonna go through the penalty stuff here. Here we go. I've got a long rundown through this penalty drive. So I went through and looked at the entire drive, play by play. Let's go. Let's start with the beginning of the drive, even before the penalties. 1st and 10, quarterback keeper for 12 yards from Michigan State. Starts off well, right? Then there's a 2nd and 10 incomplete pass. 2nd and 10 handoff to Mekhi Frazier for 3 yards. Then you're at 3rd and 7, which Michigan State throws an incomplete pass to create a 4th and 7 on which they punt. The punt results in a running into the kicker penalty from Tamar Robinson, which then results in a 4th and 2. On the 4th and 2, there's a 12-man on the field penalty, illegal substitution, which then brings up a 1st and 10. 1st and 10 is incomplete. 2nd and 10, also incomplete, but there's the pass interference. So again, Michigan State gets the third penalty that is beneficial to them. They move the ball even forward, and suddenly Michigan State starts to gain a lot of yards. 1st and 10 handoff to Mekhi Frazier for 7. 2nd and 3 handoff to Frazier for 6. Then Mekhi Frazier 3 straight 1st and 10s for 11, 12, and 2 yards, leading to a 2nd and 8, which is an incomplete pass, which again has another penalty. That's the illegal hands to the face. Following play, 1st and goal at the 4 for a quarterback keeper, and Aiden Childs scampers in the end zone. 1 play after the illegal hands to the face. And putting this all together, I wanted to sort of take this penalty by penalty. If not for the running into the kicker, it's a Michigan State 4 and out. SC gets the ball at their own 33-yard line, up 21, having scored touchdowns on 4 of their last 5 drives. You're feeling really good at that point. You're feeling really good that SC is about to run away with this, completely cover the spread, and all of that. Watching back the penalty, they're not bringing the heat on the pump block. There was a lot of talk both in the carcast and the watch along with you, Alicia, that SC was bringing heat, that this was a punt block. They're not bringing heat here. Tamara Robinson it's a normal punt block situation. They're not bringing extra dudes. They're not going super hard for this. Tamara Robinson doesn't even make a move towards blocking the punt. Doesn't reach out for the ball.
If he had, he might have not run into the kicker. He runs into the kicker because he stays on his feet so far back.
Yeah, and he gets pushed into the punter. He's just finishing out the play. It's nothing egregious from here. I do think that you can sit here and be like, oh, well, he shouldn't have been in that place. He should have been more cautious. I think that all of that is valid, but I don't think this isn't an egregious penalty.
This is just one of those. It's just happens. One of those. Yes. It happens.
Yeah. When Riley's talking about like aggressive penalties, that like this is one of the ones you just live with, right? But it creates a 4th and 2. And the 4th and 2 then gives Michigan State an opportunity, as we went through that little rundown, to try to convert for a first down on their own side of the 50. Like, they're deep in their own territory sort of here. So it's a big risk. And there's the 12 men on the field penalty. And Alicia, they get the stop on the 4th and 2. So if not for the 4th and 2, SC has the ball. It's a Michigan State turnover on downs. It's basically a 5 and out turnover on downs. SC not only has the ball, but they have a short field at the Michigan State 33, not their own 33 after the punt, but the Michigan State 33. They're up 21 points. They are never in a position to fumble the ball away and create a short field for Michigan State, which happens after this long drive. So not only do they end the drive so it doesn't end in touchdown, but they prevent the ensuing drive after that from being a short field that Michigan State can truly capitalize on. Then you add in the whole context of the game too. SC's up 31-10. I think if they get any points on that drive, you're looking at potentially putting Hassan Longstreet in there. Even if it's 34-10, there's a very good chance that Hassan Longstreet gets in on the next drive. So like the game is basically killed off, if not for the 12 men on the field penalty. And to me, this is the worst penalty by far. Like, it's not even close, because this is a coaching thing. One of two things needed to happen. A, you just don't put 12 guys out there. But B, and I think most importantly, people are allowed to make mistakes. People make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. But number two, somebody's job on the staff is to count the players. It's a GA. It's an analyst. It's an injured player who's out for the season. Somebody is there on the sideline counting players. That is their job. When you count 12 guys, you immediately raise the red flag and you call a timeout. You run the flag up the pole and you call a timeout. Like, that's what you're supposed to do in this situation. And it does not get done. And I think the frustrating part too is you watch that 4th and 2 penalty, or that play. it's weird. It's a rollout trips right flood concept that Michigan State's running. It's hard to tell who the extra guy even is. DeCarlos Nicholson just is not involved in the play at all. If it's him, which it might be because he looks very confused before the play, he doesn't even factor in the play. And if he's the 12th guy, that's even more frustrating. If it's like Desmond Stevens actually has an impact on the play. But all of this is beside the point because that's hard to really.
Yeah,
get
we don't know what the intention of that play, like what personnel should have been out there. But
right.
I think you're right that we can assume some things. It was a 4th and short, and so we can assume that they were intending to have the five on the line. Yeah.
And you're not going to take Gentry out. You're not going to take Kamari Ramsey out there.
Yeah. So what frustrates me the most about this is that the reason that the play that Michigan State runs is unsuccessful is largely because USC completely collapses their line. Like they overwhelm. The pass rush does what the pass rush has been doing well in the game the whole time. Yeah. So it's frustrating that, again, it seems to me likely to be a secondary issue, which is, again, a problem.
Yeah. It comes down to the secondary. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the secondary, raises its head a couple plays later because the penalty does move the drive along, and then you get the pass interference, and a couple plays later, pass interference, it happens.
And it was ticky-tack. I don't have a problem with Nicholson, the way that he played that. That's, again, another one of those. Yeah. And it's especially another one of those because the funny thing, since joining the Big Ten, the whole thing about the Big Ten has been how much they let go. Yeah. And for them to call that one, it was like, okay.
It was a Pac-12 PI. Yeah. But if not for the pass interference, it's 3rd and 10 on Michigan State's own 38-yard line. And to that point, Aiden Childs was 1 of 3 on 3rd down. He hadn't completed a pass in his last 5 attempts. He hadn't run for a first down on a 3rd down to that point in the game. And he was only 2 of his last 9 attempts going into that play. What would have been that 3rd down play. So, again, even after the first 2 penalties, if you don't commit the 3rd, you're putting your Michigan State into a situation where the whole deck is slanted against them, right? It's stacked in your favor. And then you get into the impact of the run game, which happens after this. Mekhi Frazier just goes completely off. He has 38 of his 61 rushing yards in the game on the rest of that drive. It took 3 penalties to happen in order for him to get the opportunity to have those 38 of his 61 rushing yards. So if there's no penalty at all, obviously this is a situation where SC has the ball and everything, but even if there's no pass interference, this is an opportunity where Mekhi Frazier might not have all these runs. And all those runs are, yes, they're breakdowns for the front. SC is gets gashed, 5 runs in a row basically. But
that's even more concerning to me because
it's concerning.
The runs that USC got gashed on are more concerning to me than the pass interference or the illegal hands to the face, to be quite honest.
But to me, it's all the more frustrating is that it didn't have to be there. You didn't have to even face those runs if not for the other penalties. And then the illegal hands to the face happens. It happens. It's tough. It's tough in the trenches, right? Without that, it's a 3rd and 8 from the 9-yard line. It's a 4-down situation. I don't think the impact is that big. It's more frustrating than anything that's a 4th penalty on the drive. So Mekhi Frazier entered that drive averaging 2.8 yards per carry. After it, he had just 9 yards on 4 carries. So all of his damage in the game, essentially, was on that drive after the first 3 penalties. So that plus the fact that Aiden Childs had 3 3 big long pass completions, 150 yards of his 212 came on 3 of his 21 pass attempts. Yes, SC's defensive breakdowns in this game are real bad. But it's so frustrating because they were so good for most of it.
Again, we've had this conversation one too many times for me to be like on board with the idea that, okay, well, you just clean up some.
Yeah.
Because again, this is not just like, this is not just one player making a mistake and being bad. This is a series of mistakes from a series of different places that are just, that lead to problems. And it's basically indicative of everything that's wrong with the defense. The lack of discipline on the penalties, the questionable issues in the secondary, the questionable stuff in the front seven, linebacker play, ability to stop the run, all of that kind of stuff. Like, it's all encapsulated in this one drive.
Yeah.
And I would be more willing to just, call it one of those. Sometimes you have a bad drive. It happens.
Yeah.
I'd be more willing to just say that if this defense had earned a little bit of trust over the last 2 years.
Well,
to say that this was an outlier, where I don't know that this is an outlier. I think they're good for a drive or two of this every game, which is very frustrating.
But I think the frustrating part here too is like, yes, I think this is an annoying penalty drive that you completely overlook, if not for the 3 long passes, and if not for the fumble after that. Like, it's the accumulation of all these kind of things, plus all the PTSD of the last 2 years, where games in which SC was in control and then suddenly weren't. All of that is a concern. Luckily for the Trojans, the offense is an absolute buzzsaw. They're incredible. They lead the country in yards per play. They're great. Jaden Mayava, the number 1 quarterback in passer rating in the country. Wayman Jordan, I think, is number 3 in the Big Ten in yards per carry. Things are going great for SC on offense, and they will continue going forward, you would imagine. At the rate that they have been, maybe not, but like, they're going to continue to go, which is going to help out the defense.
I want to call attention to some, and maybe this should wait until the next episode when we're previewing Illinois.
Yeah.
But I do want to call attention to some stats that our friend Kenny pointed out, which is to say that, the defenses that USC has faced so far in SP Plus are ranked 128th, 126th, 88th, and 57th.
Yeah.
Now, part of that is because they've played USC, so that hurts their ranking, but also you're not a top 50 defense and suddenly you drop to 126,
right?
Because you placed USC. So these are defenses that USC should have been doing this to, and I think it's probably very comforting that USC was able to do this to Michigan State's defense, which is certainly not great, but very much better than Missouri State or Georgia Southern. So proof of concept that even against a sort of middling Big Ten defense that USC can be a buzzsaw. That's good, but this is still far from the best offense that USC is going to, the best defense that USC is going to face. And then on the other side of things is the problem of the defense facing the opposing offenses they have so far. It would be one thing, you look at the offense and they're facing defenses that aren't that great. So of course they're putting up these big numbers, and we have to see what they do against better opposition. The concern here is that the defense has not played great offenses yet. The SP Plus offensive rankings for opponents that USC has played so far are, let me see, 88th, 75th, 82nd, and 77th. And I want to say Kenny mentioned that he got one of those wrong. Michigan State's offense is 58th. So none of them are top 5 defense. None of them are top 5 offenses that USC's defense has played so far, and USC's defense has had trouble with some of these. The next 4 teams that USC plays in terms of SP Plus offense, they rank 30th, 39th, 22nd, and 38th. So it's the next level of boss that this defense has to go against. The kind of offenses that you can't rely on, maybe you just give up a handful of bad plays and you still manage to win because you are relatively dominant outside of that handful of plays. You're not going to be going up against offenses that are going to be capable of moving the ball against you and of having playmakers that make life difficult for you, even outside of those handful of plays that you screw up. It's concerning because these should have been games that USC's defense had a relatively easy time with, and they didn't, and that is a problem.
Yeah, I will say at the same time, they allowed, 13 points to Missouri State, 20 to Georgia Southern, 17 to Purdue, 31 to Michigan State, but the 31 to Michigan State, 14 of them absolutely gifted.
Yeah, but gifted points are still points.
They're still points, absolutely.
So,
but like, I guess
if you are a giving defense, if you are prone to giving,
100%.
Then that's just who you are.
And there are defenses playing teams of the caliber of opponents that USC has played who are not giving up that many points, right? So, yes, absolutely, I agree. Charles said in the chat says if SC's defense is bad, then Michigan State's absolute garbage. Yeah, I mean, Michigan State struggled against Boston College, even when their guys were healthy. They obviously had a bunch of injuries in this game, and I feel for him. Matthews, by the way, out of the hospital, which is good for him. Mm-hmm. Great. They lost their two top linebackers in the middle of the game, one to targeting and one to sort of a traumatic neck injury, I guess. I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
We never really got a good look at it. So,
but an injury scare nonetheless. And I don't think USC's defense is bad. Like, that's the thing.
No.
That's the thing. They're not bad. They're really, like, they're getting after the quarterback, better than almost anybody in the country. SC is in the top 2 or 3 in like every stat you look at in terms of creating negative plays, which is great. Those things are great.
Yes,
so,
and I want
it's not a bad defense.
And I want it to be clear. Yeah, part of the problem with the situation that USC finds itself in is that when we have talked about USC's defense as being bad in the past, or even if you want to assign the bad label to this defense, objectively, that is simply not true. USC has, at worst, had a mediocre defense over the past. Like, even USC's worst defenses were mediocre defenses, prone to getting.
21, 2, and 3 were real bad.
22 ran into probably the most formidable lineup of quarterbacks that USC's defense has ever had to play.
Yes, but they also gave up a metric crap ton of points too.
Yes, but even so, like, there was context around what happened to 22.
Yeah,
and I'm
just saying opponent adjusted numbers are not. Do not bode well for USC.
Oh,
in 2022, SC was
2023 was
102nd, and 120. Sorry, they were 80th in 2023. Last year in 2024, this is an FEI. Last year they were 33rd. So like they took a huge step forward. With an offense this good, you don't need an elite defense.
Yes, but here's my point: is with an offense this good, you don't need an elite defense if your intention is to finish the season in the top 25.
Sure.
If your intention is to finish the season in the top 25, what USC has already shown is sufficient enough.
Yeah. Very good.
USC will have an offense that is extremely formidable, that will keep them in most of these games, and a defense that is good enough to wreak havoc against a lot of teams, but will probably get got by a couple.
Yeah.
And that will be good enough for a top 25. The thing that I have to stress always with people who accuse me of being too negative is that I am not judging USC on a standard of finishing in the top 25. That is not the standard that USC should ever be held to, but also specifically this USC team. There are, if you've ever heard of the blue chip ratio, the blue chip ratio is this thing where they look at recruiting numbers and what the makeup of your roster and all of that kind of stuff. And there is a sort of a calculation about which teams actually are possible to win a national title in a year. Like
Yeah.
teams that are not in the top, that are not above a certain level in the blue chip ratio simply do not win national titles. This year, I believe there were like 15 or 16 teams that above the threshold for the blue chip ratio, and USC is one of them.
Yeah.
So, like, talk about talent deficiency all you want, or anything like that. This team is still far and away, in terms of team talent, in terms of roster, in terms of all of those metrics that go into predicting how good a team can be. This team is up there with top 15 teams. This team should be competing not to finish in the top 25, but to get a playoff spot. In a 12-team playoff, if USC is not competing for a playoff spot, then USC is underachieving to a degree that I think is uncomfortable for fans to acknowledge, but that is the truth of it. So when I am being critical of USC's defense, it is because I need to see USC's defense be of a nature that is good enough for this overall team to make an argument for being top 12 when the final standings come out, because that is certainly within USC's reach, or should be. So yeah, it's a question of, if you're looking to finish in the top 25, yeah, USC is right on track. If you're looking to finish in the top 12, the defense needs work.
I think there's, to me, I think the standard should be, because we talked about this before, like in I think I mentioned this in the carcast. If you are choosing to judge this team by the 2004 USC team and the 1972 US, like, you're choosing to be miserable. Like, you are choosing to be like, that's a sad state to be in, because you're never going to be happy at anything, right? And I don't think you look at this team as, well, if this should be a team where if they're not in a position to win a national championship this year, then it is a failure. They are not in that position. And that binary view of college football, I think, in a lot of ways is depressing. But SC has gone 7-5 and 6-6 in the last 2 years. Like, if you're expecting them to be a national championship team, even despite the blue chip ratio, you are lying to yourself, right? I think the reality.
I'm not even at the national championship.
No, I know.
Like,
I know. I'm just saying.
For the record, that is not the standard I'm judging USC on.
I think that, to me, the standard is like, are you in contention to make the playoff? And because the metrics, we've talked about this before, the metrics, I feel like we mentioned this every freaking episode. It's probably annoying that in FEI, which we like to look at, SC has been, comfortably a top 20 team every year that Lincoln Riley has been there, but they have not finished that way on the field in the last 2 years. So for me, the standard is be as good as the metrics say that you can be, right?
If the metrics say, the current metrics from FPI, which is the predictive sort of model, the current projected win-loss total for this USC team is 9.7, 2.6. So basically 10-2. Yeah. If the numbers are saying that USC should be 10-2, and last year the numbers were saying USC should have been 9-3, and the year before USC should have been 9-3, and USC is consistently underperforming that, then you have to be able to acknowledge that. Like, you have to be able to judge. Yeah. Frankly, it is 2025. The playoff has been in place for over a decade, and the fact that USC has not ever participated in the playoff is absurd to the nth degree, considering that teams like ASU made the playoff before USC. Yeah. Indiana made the playoff before USC. SMU made the playoff before USC.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Yes. Which is why to me, make the playoff. Make the playoff.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Get in a position to be snubbed. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely.
That's the other thing. USC hasn't even gotten snubbed.
Yeah. Well,
maybe once.
Yeah. But I think that the way SC is playing, they're absolutely on path there. So, like, as much as I, sit here and say that I'm frustrated over the penalty drive, like, I feel so good about this team. I feel so good about this team, way better than I thought I would be through 4 games. I'm not going into the Illinois game thinking, yeah, well, they're 4-0, but waiting for the shoe to drop. No, I'm not waiting for the shoe to drop. SC's going into these 3 games against ranked teams, and I'm feeling really good about them.
I'm waiting for the shoe to drop.
I'm not, because I am leaning towards the benefit of the doubt in so many areas, especially because I just want to yell to the mountaintops. Yes, they gave up 31 points, but they were still so good in the game.
I'm totally with you. Yeah. I too want to believe in this team. I too feel like there are so many elements of this team that have so much potential, that have so much ability. It's very exciting, potentially. But also, I'm with Kenny in the chat. USC is paying Danton Lynn and this staff an absurd amount of money. They are paying Lincoln Riley an absurd amount of money. They are paying Danton Lynn an absurd amount of money. They are paying the assistant coaches on this staff an absurd amount of money. And they are paying the players an absurd amount of money. So do I think it's fair that I will be angry if USC now doesn't go into Illinois and beat an Illinois team that got pantsed by Indiana? Yes, I will be upset if USC goes to Illinois and can't figure it out, because you know what? Yes, this team hasn't figured it out, but I've seen too many teams in the past with coaching staffs who are worth a damn figure it out.
Well, this is the thing, is if you think that SC should be a playoff team, or at least if nothing else, playoff adjacent, and you want to be a snub, got to be a snub before you're in kind of thing, right? Then SC absolutely, Illinois is absolutely a game that literally any team is capable of losing, in the sense that we've talked about this. Teams lose the ranked teams on the road. But if SC is as good as we think that they can be, then they should be able to win this game on the road. Quite simply, regardless of what happened last week, right? So, all right, we got a lot of stuff to get to. Let's get to the rodometer. All right, let's start with what people had to say about the rodometer. Lisa, last week, when we spoke, it was at 6.7 after the Purdue game. 2 weeks ago, it was at 6.94 after the Georgia Southern game. Alicia, do you think it's going? Where would you put the rodometer for you?
I still have it at 7.
You don't have it at 7.
It didn't move positive or negative after the Michigan State game, which is a reflection of how encouraging the offense is and how discouraging the defense is.
I think, honestly, for me, I think it's at a 7.5. I'm up there. I am up there.
I've got to leave room for the possibility of USC beating the next 4 opponents. I've got to, or at least the next 3 opponents. I've got to leave room, so I'm leaving room.
That's fair, but I'm to a point where they don't have to be 7-0 for me to still feel really good about the team. You know what I mean? I feel really good about where USC is right now. So I'm at a 7.5. I really like where they are. The Rotbots, I know we got a comment on YouTube talking about how negative we are, and that somebody said that they haven't been watching the carcasts. They can't finish them because of how negative we are, and we're losing viewers because of it, etc. We're always willing to hear feedback, absolutely. At the same time, I think we commented back, we're going to be genuine. We're going to be. Oh my God! I'm so sorry. I'm as frustrated as you are probably listening to this, and
come here, Badger. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Anyways, no, we're gonna say it like it is. We're never as negative as the most negative person. We're never as positive as the most positive person, right? We're being honest and genuine with how we feel and all that kind of stuff. With that said, if you think we are negative, Let's get to the
Let's
rock
talk to the
butts.
rock butts.
So somebody says 5. Tipping point. The season could go either way. The defense is highly inconsistent at this point. Secondary is a concern. Better defenses will challenge SC's offense. Love the improvement overall, but the lack of discipline resulting in unearned points and inability to consistently get off the field on third down is a problem. Somebody said 3. 3. Team still looks like a Lincoln Riley coach team. Can't put teams away. No killer instinct. Plays with their own food at random times to let teams stay in. Secondary looks horrible. They can't beat the spread. Wheels will fall off soon. I just want to put it back on the idea that, like, no killer instinct.
They've won 2 games this year that they would have
The
lost
offense has
last year.
punted once in the last 2 games. Like, the offense has not sputtered at all. One freshman fumbled the ball.
Yeah.
It's annoying. It happened in a very inopportune time. But one freshman fumbled the ball. I don't know what to tell you. 5, the penalties and some of the play calling make me nervous. 5, the team remains in the show me when it matters status. It matters this week. Somebody said 4 but didn't leave a comment. Here's another one. 5, I'm holding it 5 simply because the pass defense is not where it should be in week 4. That's from Britton Irvine. Lot of dour route butts. Rama Murdy says 7, very happy with how we have played, but need to cut the penalties and our secondary needs to stop giving up big plays. There are a handful of 7s, absolutely. And then there's some 8s. 8s, good offense, good defense, mostly playing with good energy. 8s, this game did not change my impression of the team at all. Put it all together, Alicia, the rodometer is down to a 6.06.
Yeesh.
A 6.06. Let me move this. Why am I not getting the little hands to roll this over? This is very bad television. Oh boy. There it goes.
I will say there's a collective PTSD in the USC fan base, certainly in our listenership.
Yeah.
And I get it. I totally get it. 7, my 7 feels optimistic.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. I'm at 7.5. SC is 4-0. Save for Oregon, there's not a game left on the schedule where I feel like SC cannot be competitive and have a good chance to win. It's a good time to be alive. College football season is in. We look forward to college football season seemingly 11 months out of the year because it feels like it's barely here and then goes away again. I'm not going to sit here and be all boo-boo face about SC struggles, especially when they've looked really good for 98% of the plays this season. So, and they're 4-0. They're 4-0 going into a big road game at Illinois. And they've had 2 games in which things have gotten weird, and they've won both of those games by 2 touchdowns. A year after things got weird almost every single week, and they lost most of those games seemingly. So, let's go to over under though.
So you're going over.
I'm going bold. Give me that over. I got to take an under. Get 3 unders to take. I'm going to do an under here.
All right. Let's get through it. The line was 0.5. Bishop Fitzgerald interceptions. It was under. It was 0. We did not have a interception. There were no turnovers for Michigan State. In this game, there's only 1 turnover all told, and that was the fumble from DJ Jordan. 1.5 Jaden Mayava turnover worthy plays via PFF. It was under. It was 0. Very good game from Jaden Mayava, perhaps his best in the Cardinal Golds. Next one was 7.5. USC plays a 15 plus yards. They did throw the ball rather well in this game, but they did run the ball considerably more. And so it was under. There was only 5. Aiden Childs, 3rd down runs that finished in a 1st down. The line was 1.5. He had 1, and that 1 came late in the 4th quarter. So there you go. That was under. USC tackles for loss, 9.5 was the line that we set. It was under at 7. And Jacoby Lane catches, we had it at 3.5. It was under, it was 0, but really it was a freebie. Everybody gets a freebie there. He did not play, so everybody gets a freebie. Alicia, if you went under, you would have gone a perfect 6-0. You did not do that.
I didn't.
Neither did I. We both went 3-3. And this is where I have to call you out.
Oh, I did the thing.
Lisa, one of the reasons that I wouldn't say complain, but like one of the sort of frustrations about the way that we put together over under is that we use a Google form, and a lot of times you write your name, you put your email address. Not every time do people use the same name and email address, and a lot of it is like totally by happenstance. Like sometimes people will leave a space behind their name, and for some reason Google Forms includes that space, and it's so annoying because like you're not trying to do the thing and you do the thing, right? But here we go. Alicia, in the Purdue game, you put your email address as your work email address and your name, Alicia. For the Michigan State game, you put your personal email address and the name Penguin of Troy. Why are you making life harder for me? What are you doing?
I'm sorry.
Shame.
I did the thing. Yeah.
You did the thing.
I don't.
You did the thing.
I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to like put a Post-it note somewhere to remind myself which one I used. Yeah. This is representative of the scourge of multiple email addresses.
Oh, for sure. And also like this underscores how easy it is to do this and why like I'm not holding it against anybody, because like it's just an annoying system. It would be great if we had like accounts for people. It doesn't work that way though. All right. And we're not going to lock it into Google accounts, because if you don't have a Google account, we don't want you to be excluded. All right. Top 5 Rotbots the top Rotbots of the week. John Clown. John Clown went 5-1 this week. He went 5-1 even without the freebie. The freebie was the only one that he would have. He picked the freebie correct. So 5-1 there. Matthew in Long Beach, Vincent SD, Callie Matz. Congratulations, you all went 5-1 too, with help with the freebie, but that's fine. We're not judging here. Top Rotbots on the season. John Clown now number 1 at 9-3. At 8-4, it's me, along with Vincent SD, HH and HB, and DJ. So things are looking good there for everybody. The Vegas spread, of course, 17.5. The FEI projection was the SC would win 39-18 with a 92.7 win probability. They, of course, won 45-31. I predicted 45-16. And SC would win 45-16. Alicia, you predicted 42-24. I will say, like, I think our predictions were pretty good. Alicia's 42-24 would have come in if not for like the 75-yard touchdown at the end. You would have been just a field goal off of it. I got SC's scoreline right at 45, but I had Michigan State at 16, so I would have needed Michigan State to not have the penalty drive and all that kind of stuff. The game not to get weird, and then the 45-16 maybe could have come through. Your thoughts?
See, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I did the 24 for Michigan State out of a bit of pessimism about USC's defense, and
you expected a little weirdness.
I expected a little weirdness. I expected Aiden Childs to make a play or two, and for that to account for the 24.
Yeah.
And then they went and gave up 31, which it was twice as much as they should have.
Yeah.
So,
well, there were two weird moments that gave Michigan State ample opportunity. All right, we're gonna run through stocking our X's, and then we're gonna hit the mailbag. Alicia, want to hit that rapid fire?
Yeah, okay. So Gary Bryant Jr. led Oregon with 3 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown in their win over Oregon State. Bear Alexander had a tackle and a fumble recovery. The Branch brothers were on a bye. Deuce Robinson had 1 catch for 8 yards for Florida State. I'm not sure what was going on there, but they were playing
Kent
a cupcake, so he might not have played that much. Cade Eldridge is playing fullback for Washington, I learned today. Dennis Lynch, it was 1 for 1 with a 48-yard kick for San Jose State.
Wow,
and 4 for 4 extra points in their win over Idaho. Miller Moss was 23 of 32 for 316 yards, but no touchdowns in Louisville's win over Bowling Green. Michael Jackson III continued a strong run with 4 catches, 62 yards in Purdue's loss to Notre Dame. Michael Trigg led Baylor with 5 catches, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the game-tying touchdown at the end in Baylor's loss to Arizona State. C.J. Williams, who is now with Stanford, had 9 catches, 103 yards in Stanford's loss to Virginia. Raleek Brown, who is now carrying the load for ASU, who'd have thought, 21 carries, 80 yards, but only 3.8 yards per carry in their win over Baylor. Xavier Alford is out for a few weeks with injury for ASU. Corey Foreman had a tackle and a pass breakup in Fresno State's win over Hawaii. And I'm sure I'm missing people, but I tried to add some of the people who didn't just transfer last year to keep an eye on people.
Yeah, there you go.
So, suffice it to say, a lot of the receivers that USC has seen let go are still doing pretty good. Yeah. But, like, realistically, the players that USC needed that would help this current team, I just don't see those players standing out in wherever they are now.
Yeah. Let's go to the mailbag.
You've got mail.
All right. We start with a voicemail from Dave in Orange County.
Brandon Detroit Radio, what's up? It's Dave from Orange County. Just actually got back from the game, so I decided to go ahead and make a trek out to the old Coliseum and take in the USC Trojans and Michigan State. Lots to like for the game, but there was that stretch. There was just those stretches that we seemed to shoot ourselves in the foot. And against an inferior team like Michigan State, enabled us to still win. But against a better team, and especially against a better team on the road, I think we're going to run into some trouble here. But I'm going to celebrate the win. It had been a minute since I've been to the Coliseum, and it was a pretty good atmosphere tonight. They got rid of that stupid DJ, and it was just an enjoyable trip. I'm glad to see Jaden Maeva is really taking that next step to becoming a really good quarterback and something we could lean on and not have to sweat it out so much. I just need that defense to just go ahead and get itself shored up here, and then make me feel a little bit better each day. But a win's a win's a win's win. Rodometer, I think it's pretty much going to stay the same, 7.25. If we had won 43-13 like we should have, I think we could have probably ticked that up to 7.5, 7.7, but not so much. Find out.
Thanks for the call, Dave, as always. I think it sums up everything. No DJ Malski for the Michigan State game or the Michigan game. He's going to miss 2 games in a row for that.
But he's not gotten rid of.
He's not gotten rid of it. I think it's a scheduling conflict of some sort. But yeah, thanks for the call, Dave. As always, got an email from Tony that says, Michael, Alicia, this is Tony from Denora, PA. Penalties. They kept us from taking total control of this game. Yeah, I think SC did have total control of this game, and then the penalties sort of gave it back. It gave Michigan State a lot of momentum, and things could have gotten extremely weirder than they did. Let's go to Eric.
Hey, Michael. Hey, Alicia. This is Eric from Salina, Texas. I wanted to just say thank you guys for the carcast. You guys are the first in my ears after a USC football game. And usually I'm not able to even get to it until Sunday morning when I'm up and doing my business, getting ready for church and all that good stuff. So I really appreciate the work that you guys put in after a long day of watching college football, especially this is especially true after the Michigan State game, just having to stay up really, really late. Really, really grateful for all the work that you put in. That carcast is really cool because I'm able to listen and connect with you guys and kind of share feelings. It's very therapeutic. And right now we're winning. Let's keep it up. But I know that rougher days are ahead, potentially. So it'll be great to have the CarCast along with us. So thanks again.
Thanks for the call, Eric. Look at that. People like the CarCast.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what the CarCast is really for, to share feelings. There's a reason we do it right after the game. Feelings are raw. The vibes are very reflective of what the game was. And that's sort of what we're going for. And obviously the Fallout episodes on Mondays, we're looking to have had some time to remove ourselves, some time to rewatch some things, to reconsider things, and see if our mind changes. But I think people love the CarCast because of the sort of emotion that's right there in it. And then getting analytical can wait until later.
Yeah, 100%. Let's go to LA Fred.
Hey, Rant Troy, this is LA Fred calling. Well, after the first 4 weeks, I think it's safe to say that we can all agree that this year's team is superior to the last few years that have been trotted out there. As I watch them, I think they're bigger, stronger, and faster than the previous few years. Having said that, this year's team is young, and the program is still learning how to win, close out games and win. In sports, teams will often go through multiple phases of growth as they figure out exactly what it takes to win. I think the first phase is losing big. The second phase is losing close. This is where I felt that USC had been the past couple years, not being able to make the key play, and often, equally as important, making a key mistake. The third phase is winning close. I feel like this is where USC currently resides. They've blown out the two cupcakes that they had, and Purdue and Michigan State, they had big leads, and we're a play or two or three from blowing the doors open on those two games, but just not ready or willing to make the big play that's needed. The fourth and final phase is winning big. This is where I think all of us Trojan fans want and especially expect us to get to. I think they're in the right direction moving towards that, but I can't help but feel they're still 1 to 2 years away and 2 good recruiting classes away from arriving there. That's by far the hardest plateau to climb. That's why there's not many programs around the country that could ever achieve that. And even if they do, it's darn near impossible to stay at that level. I think SC is on track to join the other power programs around the country and compete year in and year out for championships. I just can't help but feel we're still another year or two away from reaching that. Have a good week. Beat the Illini. Fight on, everybody.
Thanks for the call, Fred, as always. This is the Joel Klatt thing, right? From last year, which I don't think I've ever heard, seen, whatever, an analyst say something that has resonated with people more and had more longevity than the Joel Klatt. I think we're going to be talking about the Joel Klatt thing for like 10 years.
Yeah, lose big, lose small, win big. It
makes a lot of sense. And I look at it like, okay, the Pete Carroll teams, I don't know if they really lost big, but they lost small at the beginning of 2001. They won small at the end of 2001 and the beginning of 2002, and then they started winning big at the end of 2002, and then they went on to win a national championship the following year. Mm-hmm. So, well, yeah, and it works like that.
I will say, I think Fred is right about there are elements of this team that are definitely young, and I think, I think it can be frustrating because there are quite a few players here where it feels like they are prematurely being thrown in to the fire. And I will give huge credit to the offensive linemen and to Zach Hansen, who is coaching them so far, because, Justin Taunu'u is a redshirt freshman. Tobias Raymond is a redshirt sophomore. Elijah Page is a redshirt sophomore. These are players without, a lot of experience, a lot of opportunities in the past to get settled in. And they've plugged in and done a really good job so far. Certainly better than I expected. And they're a good reason why you can sort of look forward to next year. Because next year now, instead of looking at your offensive line and saying I don't know about these guys, now you've seen a year of them. They're all, they should be entering their college prime as offensive linemen. And most of your offensive line is really, really solid, if not strong. you look at, guys like Tanook Hines, who's definitely making an impression early. And then on defense, I would love on defense if it is just Desmond Stevens too young and he shouldn't be starting yet. And Jaden Walker's too young to help him. And Tamara Robinson is too young and too fresh to help. And so you just got to ride with Desmond Stevens and hope that he figures it out as he goes along and grows from making, mistakes early on and gets better and becomes a really good middle linebacker. But right now, he's not a really good middle linebacker. Right now, USC is struggling with the reality of having Desmond Stevens as their best option at linebacker. And I say that with all due respect because I think he's obviously somebody who puts in the work and tries. But it just, he shouldn't be starting yet, realistically. If USC had, I still am mad at USC for not going out and getting a linebacker to sort of be there. But, I don't know who was out there. I don't know what was worth it. On offense, I also think that this is an issue that USC is dealing with. And it would be way worse if DeCarlos Nicholson hadn't gotten the extra year of eligibility. DJ Harvey was supposed to be that veteran presence that was going to stabilize that secondary. But right now, what USC is having to rely on is more guys who maybe you didn't want to have to be starting right away. Marcellus Williams, redshirt freshman. Braylon Conley, redshirt freshman. You're going to have to start digging deeper into some of these guys who, this might just be growing pains from those guys. You don't get to brush that off with DJ Harvey, unfortunately, but definitely growing pains from those guys, some growing pains from Christian Pierce as a first-time starter. So there's definitely reason for USC to be maybe working out the kinks a little bit from a youth perspective, while also being a lot of future-oriented optimism. I mean, just watch Jakeem Stewart look as good as he does as a true freshman. Just watch Cameron Crawford look as good as he does. Jide Abasiri, the way that he's come forward. Like, there is so much potential here, and it's only going to get better because, USC is investing a ton when it comes to recruiting and bringing in additional talent. But you hope that the lessons that some of these younger guys learn this year are what ultimately propels USC up into that upper echelon next year and the year after. But that doesn't mean that this year can't be a year where USC achieves something. And that's sort of what I'm looking at. Like, there are also a lot of seniors on this roster and a lot of guys that we're not going to get to see any more of. We're not going to get to see any more of Kamari Ramsey after this. We're not going to get to see any more Bishop Fitzgerald. Anthony Lucas will be gone. Devin Tompkins could be gone. I don't know if he will be, but Eric Gentry will be. I don't know that we're going to see more of Mekhi Lemon or Jacoby Lane, realistically. This might be the end of Jaden Mayaba at USC. Eli Sanders will be out of eligibility, and Wayman Jordan can go to the NFL if he wants. So, again, there's a lot of guys on this current roster, Lake McCree as well, who are veterans, who are there now, who I want to see win and I want to see achieve something. I think there's definitely looking forward, but this team still has the pieces to do more than we've seen from this team in the past couple of years.
I feel really good about them going into next year because you mentioned a lot of guys that probably won't be here, either because they're already seniors or they're potentially could leave to the NFL and whatnot. Yeah, I assume just operate with the assumption that Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane are not coming back. If they do, huge boost to the 2026 team. But if you just operate like they aren't, even still, like Kamari Ramsey, I would have put as a for sure go. I don't know that that's the case right now. I think that he probably comes back next year.
I'm assuming he's gone.
What is his draft status right now?
I would argue for Kamari Ramsey that he is, because remember, he's a redshirt junior, so he's done the 4 years. This year at nickel, assuming he does the full year at nickel, I don't think it benefits him, and I think he should just go to the NFL. His talent will carry him the same way that the talent will carry Kalen Bullock.
Yeah, I hear you. I just also think that there's more reason to think that he could come back now than there was a month ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, but like you look at next year, like Jakeem Stewart's going to be there. Yeah. You got, even if you lose Wayman Jordan, SC can replace running backs. Not to say that Wayman Jordan isn't irreplaceable.
No, but if there's one position on this team that I am not worried about,
running back.
It's running back, because the track record is
yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, and like so many of those guys on the line still have eligibility, even if it's not Lucas and Silver and those guys. So like, yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons to feel good about SC going forward. And you know, either next year you got Mayava coming back, or you start this on Longstreet, or you go out and get somebody as a John Mateer type, Caleb Williams type impact guy.
I actually think we might have to start having a conversation, and I am getting ahead of myself here. We might start having to have the conversation of how tricky it might be for Lincoln Riley specifically to handle what comes next at quarterback. Because Jaden Mayava, if he wants to come back, like I think he's looking at potential Heisman contention, all of that kind of stuff. But how long is Hassan Longstreet willing to wait? Yeah, no.
Things are a lot easier if Jaden Mayava goes and wins the Heisman and goes to the NFL.
Right? Realistically, the best case scenario for USC is Jaden Mayava being so good this year that he goes to the NFL. Yeah, like that is the best case scenario for USC.
Yeah. Obviously, you'd love, even if he's that good, you'd love to have him back.
Oh
next
yes,
year.
yeah.
But yes, in terms of like balancing the roster kind of stuff, yeah. But two in the bush,
not a bad problem to have, I will say. Yeah. Like this is the problem you want to have if you are the quarterback whisperer. I think it's going to be a fascinating sort of thing to watch.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go to call we got from Darren.
Hey guys, this is Darren from Reno, Nevada. I'm going to go back to the Purdue game, and I could be wrong, but I thought that Purdue ran a lot of 3-3-5 defense, and it's hard to say that any defense gives Lincoln Riley a bunch of problems, but if you go back historically, it seems like that style of defense has challenged him a little bit more potentially. So if I'm accurate here, two-part question. Number one, why do you think that is? What does Lincoln do schematically that potentially 3-3-5 can kind of handle a little bit better? And the second part of the question is, I know defensive coordinators kind of do what they do, but do you think moving forward, now that that's been on film for a few years, that a defensive coordinator might want to do a little bit more of that in the Big Ten with better athletes to try to slow this USC offense down a little bit more? So anyway, love your show. Fight on. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks for the call as always. I think it's an interesting thought, Darren, about the defense. At the same point, like Lincoln Riley's offenses have been around for a long time. I think if the book was truly out completely, I think we would have seen more of that. That said, SC's offense was not, completely great last year. Even with that, schematically, they had success, but like they weren't putting up 1 billion points. And then you look back in the Big 12. There were games where Oklahoma was, really good. They were the best offense in college football. And then there'd be a game or two in which they would struggle, and it'd be against like Iowa State. And I just pulled up our lads, and Iowa State runs a 3-3-5. It's correlation, causation. I don't know, but I think it's interesting to think about.
The good news is that if you don't already have like a 3-3-5 package installed, then you're not going to just magic that out of thin air when you're going to face USC. So that's the good news. But my guess on the 3-3-5 would be that maybe it might be very effective against Riley's offense, because I think that a 3-3-5 has the potential to confuse an offensive line, because there's so much, blitzing, and you can blitz from different places, and you can drop back from different places, and you can sort of stack or go across. It's very versatile, and you can sort of mix up what you do. And for me, Lincoln Riley's offenses are unraveled when the quarterback is pressured and the offensive line doesn't know who they're blocking.
Yeah.
And I think that's, probably part of the equation there is the confusion factor that 3-3-5 can bring. If you bamboozle USC's offensive line, then or a Lincoln Riley offensive line, then the quarterback is going to have to be put under pressure. And when the quarterback is put under pressure, most quarterbacks that go under pressure are, not great. It's rare that quarterbacks do well with a man in their face. That's what's so impressive about the ones that do that. So that doesn't mean that like a 3-5 will always work, because you still need the players, you still need the game plan to attack USC correctly. You still need sort of pass rushing prowess. You need defensive linemen that can also be stout against the run, because USC's run attack can still gash you. So yeah, I just think versatile defenses are just tricky. Is my guess.
Yeah, Johnny in the chat says that Iowa State didn't stop them. There were close games. Yeah, I'm just trying to pull out the games times that I remember that things were close. Baylor's the one that probably stopped Oklahoma the most. The Matt Rule Baylor teams, and they did run a 3-3-5. The Baylor teams. I would say that the 3-3-5 is also tough because like this defense, this offense is predicated on putting guys in space, and that means a lot of short stuff, right? There's a lot of concepts that derive from the air raid, right? Where like this is not an air raid offense. Don't mostly because I don't think air raid doesn't exist anymore. Everybody's multiple on offense, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's a power spread air raid combination at this point. But there's a lot of things like, curls and slants and all that stuff. And if you have more linebackers out there, I do think there's more guys in traffic lanes. And you also potentially have more guys beyond the line of scrimmage who can sort of maybe stop the you have an additional linebacker, more guys to stop the 5-yard runs from turning into 10-yard runs. I don't know. This is completely, harebrained speculation. I famously did not play football, so what do I know? Yeah. So, but I don't know. These are just thoughts. Football. Yeah. These are absolutely just thoughts. Okay. What do we got left? Email from Ron. Dear Rots, just curious, what's your view on a media reporter like Scott Wolf? He seems to think the sky is falling on the Trojans as the ultimate pessimist. He makes pessimistic Alicia seem tame. I don't think I've ever read a positive word from the guy regarding anything USC related. He has such disdain for Riley, or Sir Lincoln Riley as Lincoln of Riley, as Wolf calls him. No wonder the Lane train tried to revoke his Trojan access in the past. Ron from Simi Valley. Okay, so this you want to tackle this, or do you want me to start here?
I can start. I think that the perception of media figures in sports can be pretty toxic. Sure. If you go on the P right now, they'll tell you that Ryan Karchi hates USC, or that Ryan Young hates USC, or any number of the reporters that cover USC is on the beat hate USC, and I can definitively say that they don't. They just happen to occasionally be critical, just like we happen to be critical when criticism is due. I think what happens sometimes, though, with people like Scott Wolf is a good example, I think, is that sometimes being a contrarian and being the negative guy becomes your whole personality, and then that's all you are. And to me, it sort of undercuts any of your analysis, because if you're always if you're always the sunshine pumper, I'm gonna look at anything you say and say, well, you would be positive about USC in a 65-0 loss, And it's the same thing on the other side, is if pessimism or negativity is the only thing that you're capable of doing, you become intellectually dishonest. And that's, I think, what gets frustrating. And I can see how, I trust me, I'm on the more pessimistic side this year because I've been sort of worn down. And after you get worn down a little bit, you can get bitter. And bitterness leads to, to that. So I don't know. I think that a lot of beat reporters get a bad rap. But sometimes beat reporters make being negative their personality. And
yeah, I would say Scott Wolf is the exception to the rule, right?
Yeah.
In terms of this kind of stuff. And I do think that I think there's a lot of it in terms of we mentioned earlier, like if you are judging if your standard is the 1972 greatest team of all time USC Trojans, or the 2001 Miami team, the 95 Nebraska Huskers, whatever it is, if that's your standard, then you are choosing to be miserable, because there is a reason that the 1985 Bears and the 1972 Dolphins are the teams that point out, that you can point out, right? Because there's how many of those teams have existed on your hands that you can count all time, right? Like there's only so many 1994 Brazilian World Cup teams, right? Like, you know what I mean? And so if that is your standard, you are choosing to be miserable. And I don't know that Scott Wolf is actually treating his standard there, but he does present his coverage as if that is the standard. The standard is the 2005 Orange Bowl. And if you're not at the 2005 Orange Bowl, like Pete Carroll did things, then it's not good enough. And I understand he's an alum. And Petros, I think, is very similar. Like, you, as an alum, you can be hypercritical because you have cared, at least in the past, so much that like you know what things could potentially be, and so like that's where you want things to be, and if it's not there, then you're never going to be satisfied. And I do think that you can be sort of in that lane too much, that it hampers your perspective. And I think that is the case a lot of times with at least how Scott Wolf presents himself. It comes off as wanting to be the contrarian.
Yes.
Like
the contrarian is a role in media too. Like people take that on and wrap themselves in it. I think Skip Bayless has wrapped himself in that like caricature.
Yeah.
And I think that people can sort of become that caricature, and then they get a kick out of people disliking them.
Yeah. And so that's
Paul Feinbaum's the same. He knows what'll rile people up, and so he gets a kick out of it, and he says what he says.
Yeah. But yeah, that's where things are. You can, as always, email us, rant@troyfanside.com. Phone number 818-643-7227. We will be back Wednesday to preview USC and Illinois. Little podcast update. So next week is a bye week, right? Like SC plays Illinois on Saturday, and then bye week after that. For the bye week, we are not going to do the Wednesday episode next week. We will be back next Monday, the 29th of September, to do the Fallout episode on Illinois. But there will not be a Wednesday episode next week because there's no game the following week. There's no preview episode that week. But we will be back on Michigan week. We'll be back Monday and Wednesday. That Monday episode will be a fun one because I think it'll be sort of like a retrospective of the first 5 games. So kind of basically the midway point given where the bye week is. So that'll be a fun one. You can join us there. And that's 2 weeks from today. But a lot of stuff coming your way. I can get really far out in the podcast plan and tell you that there's going to be no carcast for the Nebraska game, but we're not going that crazy yet. We'll save that letdown news for later.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Way to tease.
I know. All right. We'll be back Wednesday. Until then, we will see you. See ya.
See ya.
See ya.